6. Which goes round? Nicole.
On December the 2nd, 1950,
Second. Yeah.
1950, the United Nations passed a resolution to federate Eritrea with Ethiopia, leading to over 40 years of conflict.
That should work. Yes. Good. Then.
Part of the function of schooling is to enhance the
Improve.
scope of the individual participating,
Particularly.
the ability to reason.
What did others have for that one?
Capabilities.
Capabilities works best there. Yeah, 3, James.
The book is somewhat limited in scope,
Yeah.
but maybe useful as a starting point for someone interested in this subject.
Yeah. Scope. The kind of the width, the breadth of the topic. Good. Nancy.
Experts in the domains of both psychology and
Sociology. Discussion. Yeah. So, domains. Dom, where you see the word dom, home. Domestic. Dominant. Dominant, powerful. Where are people powerful? In their own house. Yeah, you kind of rule your own house, don't you? So, a domain, like an area that is controlled. Yeah. 5.
The early migrations of man were largely an account of his response to the changing environment of the ice age.
Yeah, the ice age, because it's a vowel, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. Migrations. However, there's an error in the sentence. 2 errors. What are they? Both related to the same problem.
Migration.
Man, right, man. Humans, there. I don't think it was just guys who went out and spread across Asia. I think women played a small part. Okay, Lita.
Change it to humans.
Yeah, humans and there. That's how you get your gender neutral language. Lita, number 6.
The government has announced
Which word means beginning?
beginning present.
Not that one. The initiation. Yeah, when you begin something. Yeah.
Of a new program to identify children and risk of abuse.
That's it. Taiwan. 7.
In Japan, government is now offering financial incentives to consumers who buy cars which produce less pollution.
That's it. So incentives, like encouragement. Yeah. To consume, and yeah, get your plurals. Number 1, get a sound. Consumers who buy cars. That's better than consumer who buy car. But natives don't say consumers. They say consumers. Voiced. Cars. Most of the time that S is a Z. We've been through the rules for that, haven't we? Yeah. So just work on that to get the voiced plurals or third person singular or possessive. Hannah.
A request for the allocation of additional funds has been sent to the board of directors.
Good. Allocation. Right, now I want you to read it again, Hannah, and this time, the.
A request for the
Right.
a request for the allocation
Yes.
of additional funds has been sent to the board.
That one?
The
Right.
board of directors.
Yeah.
the.
Yeah. You could. I know you can do it because you did it a
Ah.
few days ago. Remember we were working on it.
Yes. And
Once you
the
can
same-
physically make the sound, the next problem is not a physical one, is it? It's consciousness. It's habit. And you know, you've got to break a habit of however many years of English learning you've been doing.
So,
And that's hard. So this is where the Roald Dahl simple language, you know, if you've got one problem like that, just mark all the sounds in a little, you know, they're quite short little chapters, aren't they? Maybe a couple of hundred words. Listen to it, read it, and just focus on that. And just keep doing it, and slowly that habit will break down. But it's like any habit, it's repetition, isn't it, that breaks it down. It's like eroding a rock. Just rain, wind, it takes a long time to disappear. So the first step is always to be able to make the sound, and that's sometimes a difficulty. But a lot of you, a lot of the time now, can actually make the sound. So it's much more brain problem than tongue or lip or tooth problem. And I'd say 80% of it, 90% of it is just habit. You know, wrestling with and figuring out, strategizing how to erode, break down that habit. So in terms of self-management pronunciation, that's a huge element of pronunciation. You've got to figure out ways of doing that, and part of my job is to provide the resources so you can regularly do it. And we know with the Roald Dahl, there's one example of how you can attack that. Yep. Okay, Sadia.
His family life takes precedence in all his plans of the future.
Yeah, precedence, you can say either. Don't say presidents. There's an example of a voiced and unvoiced making a big difference. Precedent. Yeah, you got to get that control, otherwise you make a different word. You said it correctly, it's good. Yeah, his family life takes precedence. One way to avoid sounding like president is if you can say precedence or precedence. If you say precedence, it will never get confused with president, because you've got the long E. 10. Read it.
Most of our main competitors are located overseas, principally in Southeast Asia.
That's it. Competitors.
Asian competitors.
Are located overseas. Overseas, not overseas. Overseas.
Asia or Asia?
Asia. Like usually. Measure. Yeah. So it's like a sh sound. If that's hard for you, that make the unvoiced sh, and then add voice. Asia. Good. How did you find that one? I reckon that's a quantum leap. Harder, isn't it? I told you. Number 6, there's this jump because the frequency is not linear. Remember all the many times I've drawn those graphs on the board of language frequency. It drops quite quickly.
Last few times is quite easy.
Yeah.
That's why I stopped practice.
Ah,
This practice
I warned you. I warned you.
Zero.
That's very honest. Saying that it's
Practice.
Yeah.
Remember practice.
Now there's quite a jump. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 now. Tougher. So yeah. So get ready for next week, hey?
What can we do to keep the new word in my mind?
That's a good question. I
Because
would say, you know, the purple page, the more you play with it, the more it'll stick. The other thing is, like any words that you're learning, will decay, won't they? And it's the same idea, use it or lose it. How do you use words? It's hard to use them actively. I mean, that's good to try. Writing them out yourself in your own sentences and so on. But even, there's another way of using that is receptive. And you remember the figures I've given you about how do you contact these words again and again and again in the easiest way? Listening. An hour of listening on Radio National, 8,000 words. Hard to read 8,000 words. I mean, you can, a lot of you are capable of that. You would have done more than that for your essay. But are you going to read that many in an hour? Probably not. You know, the easy way of bombarding yourself, like bombing yourself with words, is through listening. So if we took a word like, I don't know, capability, allocation, maybe if we look them up on word count, my guess is they're around about the 10,000 mark, 8,000, 10,000. Not that uncommon. So maybe a few hours of listening to Radio National in a week, you'd hear that word again. And the next week you'd hear it again. And the next week you'd hear it again, you know. So it keeps it alive. You don't necessarily have to be using it. But if you hear that word then 7 or 8 times, it becomes so familiar. One day it will just come out of your mouth, won't it? Or one day it will just come out of your pen or your keyboard. So I think repeated, receptive, you know, absorption of the word, eventually it just turns active. But it takes many times, maybe 20 times, or who knows that number. There's probably research on that, I don't know it. But so my basic, you know, advice would be, yeah, expose yourself to it, and the best way is listening.
Repeating.
Yeah, yeah. Now you could repeat the programs like I've said, but even just listening to a huge range, you're more likely to hear the word again rather than just repeating one. So we've talked about repeating the same program for certain benefits for listening. I'd do that, but I'd also listen to a range. Both those strategies do different things to your learning. The listening to lots of different stuff broadens your vocabulary by repeating these words a lot. Drilling into one listening probably improves your listening more. So do both. Okay, any issues around, other issues around that one? Otherwise, on to number 7, yeah. And that'll take us to next week, which is the last week, and then when we come back we'll do a couple more early in the term.
Is it, this kind of thing will be, you know, the end of the next?
At the end of the test? Ah, you mean final exam?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Gee, yes.
I shouldn't have said that, should I? I should have said, yeah. Nah, it's, you can rest easy.